It is 5 minutes to start time, and I am just texting this, testing this. So I'm going to get out of it now and see. So I'm just testing this. I have one viewer. Hi, Kip. I am going to turn it off now and make sure this is working. Actually, two people are on. I'll tell you what, if you could message me, Kip and Judy, and let me know whether you can see or hear adequately, that would be great. Welcome, Alan. Great to see you. We're going to start right at noon with the presentation. And I've asked those that are on now, if you could message me on my Facebook page, Paul VanValin, and let me know whether you can hear and see adequately. That would be helpful. I'm going to be inviting people to message questions and comments. This is going to be a relatively informal presentation. Welcome, Diane. And so if someone could message me, if you have the capacity, to let me know that you can see and hear, that would be great. Judy messages me, all is working. Okay, all right, very, very good. So I'll talk to you about what I hope to accomplish through this. And it's really a conversation. It's inviting people to comment, people to engage. And so I'm not technically hugely proficient. I understand some basics about production. I've done a lot of Zoom kind of activity and so on. But like today's topic is just out of my life. You know, I've had lots of experience. So I'm gonna present really some stories from my own experience, talk about the cumulative situation. I'm gonna try to avoid anything that has, huge political overtones or judgmental overtones. Try to stay focused on coping and encouragement and stuff like that. So that's the goal for today. And hi, Marcia. So we'll start, like I said, I'll start the presentation in 2 minutes. I don't intend to go longer than 30. It might be shorter than that. A lot of it depends on engagement. These are topics I can talk about for hours, but I would bore myself, let alone anyone watching. So, it's great to see some old friends. Elaine, welcome. I'm seeing some folks that I probably haven't been face-to-face with in a while. And thank you for all joining. Alan, great to have you coming on. We've got a contingency of people from my old alma mater, Spring Arbor College, and my old high school days, which is really awesome that you're showing some interest in this. And I'm hoping that it has value. I really welcome feedback, critical feedback. Talk too much about this, you're too boring, you tell stories that are inane, you don't look good. I can't help that. That's just part of the package here. But I decided to wear my outdoorsy, these are one of these, river shirt things, kind of the deal with the rugged stuff appearance. So great to see you all that are present. Sam, thank you for your comment. So I'm going to start. I think we're just about there. So by way of introduction, although the names that I see, you all have some history with me, but I'm a clinical psychologist licensed in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I am a counseling psychologist by degree, and I use these two entities differently. In my role as clinical psychologist, I directly serve people in Virginia because that's the state that I'm licensed in, the Commonwealth of Virginia. As a consultant and coach, I see people online. So I've been doing the online thing for years, and I have clients in the Northeast, the South, and the West. And I've had trainings for folks in Romania and Germany. So I have some experience with the technology that you're dealing with. This is my first Facebook Live attempt. And again, suggestions, comments, even while we're doing it, I welcome you to message me on my Facebook page. I'm watching my phone. You're looking at me from my phone, but I have in front of me my Facebook page is open. And so if you want to message me through that, I'll also give you a number. And I don't know how well this will work because I've never done this while doing Facebook Live, but my direct line, it's a Google Voice number, is 757-967-7372. and there's probably some way I can post that next time, and I will do that. It's 757-967-7372. But do feel free to message me on Paul VanValin Facebook page, and we'll see what we can do as far as interaction. So I'm 64 years of age. You'd think at my age I wouldn't be interested in adventure, but I always am interested in adventure. That's sort of my makeup. I was an Army psychologist for 4 years. During that time, I had the usual Army officer training in, defense, in security, and I was around when the Chernobyl incident occurred. In fact, I was living in southern Germany. Those of you old enough will remember there was a nuclear disaster in Chernobyl, then Soviet Union, affecting the continent in a huge way. So Germany, who always took these things real seriously, just went on huge alert, quarantine. They just dumped dairy products, any grazing animal product. They either destroyed or found some other use for it other than human consumption. Only bottled water, because they were in close proximity to the radioactive clouds that would come over and pollute the atmosphere. So I was there through that, and I got a feel for what it's like to see a community go on lockdown. The Americans were less concerned, but we set up a debriefing compound to deal with people coming out of Chernobyl. We had tourists in the area at the time, and they came home, and we did. That was my first critical stress debriefing experience. We set up stations to help people kind of work through things. So oh, that's interesting. I swiped away a message and knocked my phone right off. And this kind of thing is likely to happen when I am your host. Interesting, goofy things will happen. So that was my first. That interested me enough that I took training in critical incident stress debriefing, and after 9/11 took advanced training. Actually, during recovery from 9/11, got training in critical incident stress debriefing, and I have done a variety of things that relate to either cumulative or critical stress. So I'm called often for bank robberies, death of a staff person in local facilities. Those would be at a localized level, organizational critical incidents that affects an organization. The mass critical incidents, like 9/11, World Trade Center tragedy, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy, I've been privileged to be invited into conversations and trainings and relationships that have lasted, now moving on decades, life-changing experiences to have the privilege of entering into those environments. All of you will remember where you were when you learned about the World Trade Center incident. Unheard of in our history, as are the times we are in now. Unheard of in contemporary history. So I was in my office actually when I first heard something had happened. I didn't know what it was. My children were in a private Christian school, and we got a phone call that something has happened. They didn't even get specifics. Something has happened. We're sending all the children home. It's going to affect all the military families, and we're shutting the school down. And so I was really curious, popped on the radio, driving in, and I hear about the Twin Towers being attacked. My first thought was, I wish I was back in uniform. I would know what is going on, and I might be able to do something. Well, little did I know that we'd get a call to go to New York. There was a group of clergy who organized very quickly. They became the Ground Zero Clergy Task Force. And the church that I was attending donated to their cause, and they built relationship. And we were invited to send a team up, and I chose to take a multidisciplinary team. My good friend, Dr. Richard Kidd, and I, he was on staff at the time, we conceptualized and built this, gave a brief training. And because we had already had some training and did some quick research, we actually did everything pretty well. At that time, there was a lot of confusion, kind of like now, a lot of confusion, misinformation, what to do, what not to do. People exposed themselves too much to what was going on. Now, some of that was inevitable, just as now. My nephew is an ER doctor at Mount Sinai in Manhattan. The ER docs are tremendously pressured. As you're reading, New York City is one of the epicenters, so my nephew is going into that environment every day, long days, not always wearing the gear that he should be wearing. So we have communication with a relative who's right in the thick of this. He comes home every day to his wife and 6-week-old daughter. So So there's just built-in stress in that kind of context. Here in Virginia, we are not under mandatory lockdown. There are recommendations for small gatherings and so forth. And so we're not feeling quite the pressure, but I brought all my staff home this last weekend. Everybody's doing this kind of technology now, all of our work. And so that is not this kind of stress for us is not critical, but it's cumulative. So cumulative stress are things that just add up. And that's how this works. You can go online and take the Holmes-Ray stress scale, or you can email me, I'll send you one, take it, take a look at the last year. And the principle there is you circle events and scores that are over the year, because the theory is anything you had to adjust to, adapt to, adds up. And you'll see on this scale, it's very interesting, Christmas, vacation, all in that kind of world, right? So good things, bad things that require adaptation. I love vacations. I love taking long weekends. But I tell myself and my staff and my family, we're going to pay for this before and after. Why? As the leader of an organization, I have a ton of work to do before I leave. And because I'm gone, I come back, there's a ton of work to do at I end. So the wonderful vacation where you de-stress, it takes 2 days to de-stress, rest, relax, fun, and then you ramp up. By the time you get home, it doesn't feel like you've even taken one, but you actually have, and it's been good for you. So cumulative stress is affected by Christmas, where you change your diet, you change your time with your family, you change your spending habits. We use the terms eustress to define good stress, like euphoria, eustress, euphoria, eustress. And so this would pertain to getting a raise, winning the lottery, which, by the way, is one of the most cumulative stressful things a person can do. If you get to know some folks that have won the lottery, I would love to be given the chance to deal with that stress. I would welcome it. God doesn't really intend for me to be a rich guy, so that's probably not going to happen. Anyway, so eustress are the good things that we still have to adapt to. Distress is a term we use. Distress is a term we use for things that we wish didn't happen, didn't want to have to adapt to, but there we go, we have to do this. So we have eustress and distress, and the theory is it all adds up. So if you contemplate what you are going through right now, right? I've shared that my staff are all working from home. Now, it isn't a big deal for me. I love my home. I have a room set up with a electric table. I'm standing right now at it. I can sit at a recumbent bike and pedal while I work. If I was doing that, you'd kind of see this happening. I can't do it fast, but I look out in a beautiful open space, a little man-made pond with ducks and geese, and so I'm in a world I love right now. I'm used to it even, but my staff are not used to this. And so the distress for me is trying to help them cope. And any of you who are leaders, that in any of the things that we do, this is really, we're going to talk about leadership and how to lead. And if you are a parent, you are a leader, which includes almost all of you that have chosen to have children. If you are a club leader, if you are a coach of Little League, you are a leader. If you are obviously a pastor, or as I am, an entrepreneur who owns a business, you are a leader. And so we're going to really try to talk about leadership, how to lead through these times. Next week, by the way, I'll be starting some work with Bishop Courtney McBath. He's a local pastor of a very large church, has a large network, and Bishop McBath and I are hoping to do together, targeting pastors, though it'll probably have open access, issues of leadership and coping with this ongoing thing. Part of the stress of right now is we don't know what's coming. And some people are pretty cool with that. I actually am pretty good with that. I like adventure. I like the unknown. I like pioneering work. And as you know, in American history, pioneers often died, and they didn't care. They were off about doing their pioneering thing. So I'm kind of okay with it. But there are a lot of people that just love consistency, love stability. In fact, that's the majority of the population. They're not okay with it. They want to know what's coming, and they want to know when I'm going to be able to buy this or get that, when I can get back to work, what my paycheck's going to be. And we're now in a state of the unknown. So for all of you as individuals and all of you as leaders, you have to find a way to calm down. You have to find a way to calm down. I've been working on this all of my life. And it wasn't until, I would say, definitely 2012, that I really got serious about figuring it out. I will, in the course of time, share personal stories. I will try to be as transparent as possible without being self-serving. I'm not doing this to be self-serving. At least I don't think I am. But I do believe that authentic leadership in times of crisis needs to tell a storyline that people can follow. This is a really important thing. Nobody has a story to go with what's going on now, right? Now, I say nobody, I'm really referring to the American culture. Honestly, I have friends in Africa, I have friends in developing countries, and, the fear of not having food, not having shelter, being invaded by something that is can be construed as an enemy is day-to-day life. And so I'm speaking, although we may have, in fact, we do have some Romanian viewers, I'm speaking from my experience as an American in the American culture. So in my lifetime, I've known what American poverty is like. I have been poor. I don't know what third world developing and African poverty is like. I've never been without food. And so one of the lines that I've used in my own life when I've been afraid of financial failure is Paul's statement to Timothy, if we have a shirt on our back and food in our stomach, we'll be content. And there have been times when I felt so bad that I simply tugged on my shirt and patted my belly. I knew I've never been in a place where I didn't know where my next meal is coming from. That's what I'm calling American poverty. It's more a fear of, in my world, it was a fear of the shame of failure that really got a hold of me. So right now, Americans for the first time are, as a mass, are more questioning, where's it going to come from? And so this is going to require a lot of faith, a lot of commitment to staying calm, and for those of you that are leaders, really being sure that what we're speaking is as true as we can divine it to be, and not be presenting a lot of speculative stuff. I'm really cautioning leaders to avoid getting into political kinds of analysis, debate. You could damage your reputation as a leader by being on the wrong side of this as this plays out. So anyway, that's just a little side deal. So cumulative stress, here's my metaphor. It's a chain. So picture I'm holding a big chain in my hands, great big links. And since the screen is only this big, but imagine I'm holding my arms out that far, right? So I got a big chain. And there's lots of links on this chain, and they are labeled with parts of me. So there's a link for my skin, for my muscle, for my bones. There's a link for my relationships, my spirituality, my moods, my productivity, my personal ministry, and my personal business. Huge links, right? Now, imagine, stretched out to here, that every little thing that I have to adapt to puts a little or a lot, depending on what it is, of pressure on this chain, right? It's a physics metaphor. So we pull, can't find this, can't find that, don't know about this, had to call that, had to stay up late, up, till eventually, what's going to happen naturally, it's going to crack at its weakest link. What is your weakest link? Now, if it comes to you like that, you are a self-aware kind of person. But if you do not know yourself well, you may be unaware. So this is a true story. So I'm working with a married couple. I'm doing family therapy with them. And they are extremely introverted people, socially not very active, both active in their church. He's active in a lodge of some sort. And so their social sphere is very, circumscribed. And we were just talking about communication and self-awareness. And she says to me, he is so unaware, he is so out of touch with his feelings, with his physical being, I have to tell him when he has a headache. He says, you do not. And she says, yes, I do. You have one right now. He says, I do not. And then he pauses. Oh, you're right. So this is an extreme example of someone who, and he was in his 50s, hadn't developed yet self-awareness enough to know what his body was doing, what his body was telling him, and what his body needed. He relied on his wife, who was tuned in, understood what was going on. That is one of the most extreme examples of someone who was not in touch, unaware, after living, 5 decades on the face of the earth. So, sorry, I'm going to have to do this. Whoop, little things come on the screen. What I want you to use, what I want me to do during this time is to continue to increase awareness of self, awareness of others, and awareness of God. There's a beautiful book by David Benner called The Gift of Being Yourself. I recommend that every leader read this. And he writes very eloquently about how you can't separate these things. If you are not aware of self, or aware of those with whom you interact, or aware of God, the whole thing falls apart. You are unaware. And we are in a time now where we need to be attending to, particularly leaders, attending to the needs of others. What are the needs of others? Here's an example. I was doing a coaching session with a pastor today, and we were talking about what's going on and how they're coping, and they're trying to develop a culture of online services, virtual communities, using, the whole staff now has paid Zoom accounts so they can get 100 people in the room and do it all day. And so I said, have you thought about this? We're kind of awaiting the Congress and Senate to do something, and there could well be funds available, but your people may not know how to access this. Have you considered developing a ministry of knowledgeable people who would be available to provide virtual guidance to your small business owners, families? This, we don't know what it's going to look like, but it is not going to be easy to access. It never does something come down where just someone stops at your door and say, you won the sweepstakes. There's always effort involved. He said, that's a great idea. So we need to share ideas, and I want you to feel free to respond to what I'm talking about. If you have great ideas for increasing community, keeping things alive, preserving sameness as much as possible, these are all critical things to managing stress. Feel free to keep dialogues going on either my Facebook page, Eden Counseling Facebook page, text, message, whatever. I am going to attempt for a short period of time to just be really active in social media. It's really not my thing. Those of you that I've been your friend of, you might not hear from me for a year, and then something's going on and I get active. Well, this is one of those times. So cumulative stress, knowing yourself. For example, I have a slight curvature of my spine, right? A little bit of scoliosis, not horrible, but it's enough that my left leg appears to be shorter than my right leg. And so I put it, if you know stuff, you can do something. So I have a little lift in my left shoe to keep the weight from making it worse. I do certain stretches, certain exercises, because I know this is a fault in me. Now, if your theology is, nobody has any problems, God takes care of everything, we shouldn't have to, you should have no stress, no anxiety, no worry, no illness, or your faith is weak, this presentation is not for you. I'm going to be talking about normal human beings going through normal stuff, and self-awareness to take care of yourself is critical. I'm an introvert. We now have, we talked, here he volunteered, I don't remember how it came about, but my son, who works in Manhattan, lives in Brooklyn, came down last week to be with us. And I'm very glad for that. But now we have a kid in our house. And so that changes things, right? This is another cumulative stress. It's great, but both he and my wife are very social. I know how to be social, but I'm an introvert. Those of you that knew me as a little kid, I just didn't speak up much. And so I know I need time alone. And so I'm able to plan. I usually get up earlier than others. I can get out and run and do stuff. But if I don't manage my time alone, I get irritable, stressed, right? I know this about me. What do you need? Do you need time alone? Do you need more social time? I have friends who have no idea what it means to be alone. They avoid it at all costs. They are so social. One of my friends, we were talking about the difference between introversion and extroversion. I said, the issue with the introvert is that the introvert doesn't really expect positive outcome in all social contexts. And he looked at me and said, I can't imagine somebody not liking me. I mean, that's the confidence of the super extrovert, right? So that individual needs to really work hard at maintaining virtual community. We don't want to encourage people to take the risk of a lot of face-to-face stuff, but using modern technology, but somebody has to lead. Back to you leaders. Somebody has to say, let's get together. I have found that my wife, who's a natural social leader, and I have always been the ones to have to say, let's get together, let's do this, let's do that. Now, I say that in spite of the fact that Marcia Van Norman is watching, and she is a supreme social networker. She always beats us to the punch. But most of our friends, we are reaching out. And so consider that. Should I be reaching out more, scheduling time more to do virtual online? There are games you can play. There are stupid videos. My son sent us picture from Sway, an app. Highly recommend it. I responded. I downloaded Sway. It creates an avatar of you dancing. Hilarious when you're 64, showing this, wild movement kind of stuff. Be creative. And so one of the reasons that I want to be active in social media, I want to hear from you. I want us to be sharing what's working out there, what breaks the monotony, what increases community, what helps us manage all of this stuff. So again, just communicate. So back to my chain. So I, under stress, get tension through the neck and shoulders, headache, and when I ever feel that, I tell myself I have earned a headache. Why? One, I am not going to be manipulated by the environment. I'm not going to fall victim to the perception that I have no influence. And I really believe there are things I could have done to influence this, right? I chose not to stretch. I chose not to exercise. I chose to sit for too long. I chose. That's how I view life, and that's how I'm encouraging you to view life if that is not your natural bent. There are things that I can influence at all times. Lots of stuff I can't influence, and I have to figure out how to live with that, but I'll do what I can to live healthy. So when I realize I've earned a headache, I may go ahead and take an aspirin or a Tylenol, but I remind myself I need to stretch, right? All that stuff. So that's just an example. My wife will sometimes say, are you feeling stressed? Because she is perceiving an edge to my voice that I'm really kind of oblivious to, but she's right. There's a little bit something there. So that's where self-awareness, I just gave an example of other awareness, my wife being aware of me and me being aware of her. There are times when I need that input. And then the God awareness comes in because, that's an interesting thing. My field of psychology, around the turn of the century, Freud said religion is a crutch and healthy people would not be religious. Fast forward to the 80s research, and healthy people are engaged in religious activity, faith-based community. It is part of their world, belonging to something bigger than you are. And if you don't have the same faith perspective as I do, I'm not attempting to lay something on you that you're not interested in. But we all have to be connected to something bigger than us that has a positive expectation, right? So those that are Christians, we have tons of scripture that directs us away from anxiety, that directs us into thinking about things that are worthy of praise. This is Philippians 4. Excellent. Beautiful. These are the things we think about. And Philippians 4 is my go-to chapter. I quote or refer to it more than any other chapter when it comes to dealing with anxiety. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything with thanksgiving. And the research on thanksgiving is gigantic in terms of what it does. Think about it. If I say thank you to you, I am elevating you. I'm acknowledging that you have done something good. Thank you. If I say thank you to God, I'm putting myself in a appropriately humble position. And this is interesting. Our culture, American culture, doesn't like humility. The American culture views humility along the lines of humiliation. And those of you Greek scholars out there, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have heard that the Greek authors had to create a term because humility was also not part of the Roman culture when the New Testament was written. Now, if that's an urban legend, you just correct me. I am happy to be corrected. But right now, that's my view, that humility is a unique reality that is only now being studied in positive psychology, and sure enough, the humble are happier than the arrogant. This is a modern psychology research. So as you are able... Oh, what is the book for leaders? The Gift of Being Yourself. Doris, The Gift of Being Yourself. Feel free to send messages as we go. Apparently they just show up on my screen, which makes it real easy. So it's David Benner, The Gift of Being Yourself. I'll cite books every now and then as they come to me and throw things out there. So knowing yourself, knowing how stress shows up for you, and knowing what to do about it. And if you don't know, talk to people who do, right? Use your virtual community. My good friends, pastors, all my pastor friends are saying we have more time to interface individually with people than we ever have before. So this is one of the blessings that comes from this. So if you want to converse with a pastor and you're part of a big church, odds are you're going to have a much better chance doing that than when we're all planning the big Sunday events and all that kind of stuff. Talk to your friends. I am not a naturally relational person. I am a mission-minded person. I am wired for action and moving things forward. My wife is wired for relationship. Between the two of us, we have sort of evolved together into some kind of mix of let's get the job done with other people. Teams do it best. So that's kind of where we've been headed. So, but I've had to learn that I cannot function independently. In fact, any great thing that's accomplished is accomplished in teams. So coping with a pandemic is only accomplished by working in teams. Those of you that believe you can just hunker down, watch horrible TV all day and survive this thing, you're going to get anxious and depressed because there's just too much of that. Those of you that use this as an opportunity to improve your marriage, your parenting experiences, maybe develop something you couldn't develop. If this goes on long enough, I'll actually have time to build a website I've been wanting to build, right? All that can be done if we share ideas, share inspiration, say way to go. I love the fact that many of you Mirabella just posted, again, The Gift of Being Yourself by David Benner. So if these things are showing up in my feed, you all can be kind of seeing these conversations as well, which is great, helping each other out. So, cumulative stress. If you go do the Holmes-Ray scale, you'll score under 150, which means your life is pretty steady. Nobody's going to be there now, right? Everybody's going to be higher than that. Usually when I give the presentation, I have the highest to the second highest score in the room because I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always managing funds, and there are items like, borrowed this or paid off that or second mortgage, all this kind of stuff. And so how do you live a high stress, sorry, I got a cough drop that developed an edge. I had to move it over there. And I have a cough drop in because it's allergy season, and when I talk, I sometimes cough. If you see me cough, it is not the coronavirus. It is allergies. And I'm really telling the truth here. And I know many of you are seeing people in the street looking miserable, saying, oh, it's allergies, and it's not that. But I'll try to be truthful with you. So I was talking about something. Anyway, wherever I was, we're going to start here. So this is the obvious stuff. You have to figure out how to make a new normal. This is true of critical stress. This is true of cumulative stress. Glenn, I'm glad you found the book. So Glenn found the book. Excellent. And before I'm done, I'll throw out a couple more books. Oh no, I lost my train of thought. This is typical of me. There's just so much going on, and I love it, and I lose my train of thought. So let's pick it up at, okay, yeah, I found my place. Are you sleeping? This is real kindergarten stuff, but we need to encourage each other in this because you'll be amazed how many people lose it. Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping enough? What do you need to do to help yourself sleep? And I'll tell you this, don't be watching TV till bedtime and expect to get a good night's sleep. Sleep hygiene requires an hour, for most people, of neutral activity. Work stops an hour before bedtime. And ideally, screen time stops also. And you engage something neutral, you have a bedtime routine. This is really important in times like this. It's called the gratitude exercise. Research proven to improve your sleep. Before you go to sleep, have a little pad by your bed, write down 3 things you're grateful for, and make them small so they can always be there. Had a great slice of tomato in my salad. Really enjoyed seeing the birds in the trees as spring is erupting here in Southern Virginia. Had a nice conversation with my son today. Small gratitudes, and here's the research. Normal people without mental illness in 6 days are sleeping better, have more energy during the day, more positive outlook. Even people struggling with depression and anxiety, a little longer, but they will report just with that intervention, better sleep, better energy, better outlook. So sleep hygiene is very important. Are you eating well? Now, what does well mean? Okay, so the older you get, the more you realize, boy, the sins of my youth are really catching up to me. And so I, for the first time, am really taking a look at food allergies in a serious way. All my life, I'll eat certain things, cough, sputter a little bit, think nothing of it. Now I'm realizing that's not good. So are you eating what your body needs when your body needs it? And granted, under stress, many of us want to do comfort eating. It's often our go-to, right? Whatever comfort food was for you. When I was a young person, they used to call meatloaf and mashed potatoes comfort food. That's occasional. An occasional meatloaf and potatoes is okay, but if you eat that every day, then you're going to have problems. So are you eating well? Are you exercising? This is a true story. My great aunt died at 100 years of age. The last decade of her life, she was blind. and she walked 4 miles in her basement every day. Right? That's a lot of walking in the dark or in a circle, right? She was able to live to be 100 because she was, now we're back to community. She was part of a community that loved her. She had done so much for people. They welcomed the opportunity in her blindness to come help her with house cleaning, help her manage, transactions she couldn't manage alone, help her keep her house clean. Her daughter-in-law was divorced from her son, still maintained a loving daughter relationship. This is the kind of person she was. Active in community, active in her church. She was the church secretary forever. And so she lived independent in her home for a decade, stone blind. She had been very physically active as a younger woman. She golfed until she couldn't see the ball in front of her. Even when she couldn't see where the ball went, her friends would help her golf. So she would tee off and they would take her by the arm and they would go find the ball. But when she couldn't see anymore, she stopped golfing. So physical activity all of your life, you have to figure it out. You remember the Total Gym 1000? Chuck Norris. I've had one for years and the wheels got worn. Well, I think 2 months ago I ordered replacement wheels. Guess what I'm going to fix up this week? I'm going to get that thing going so we can get some exercise. You can still go outside, most of you, and avoid people and get outside activity. That's something that is a good thing. You can get out and maybe you'll have more time to do it. Walk, bike, take a drive sometimes just to get a change of scenery. Chit-chat in your car. You can actually make a picnic and go some pretty place if you have an environment like that and have some semblance of a normal engagement. So are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you socializing? And are you attending to your spiritual needs? And they may differ given your traditions. This is a great time to let your spirituality flourish. So a book that I love is Practicing the Presence by Brother Lawrence. Dirt cheap, short. I think I got mine as a free Kindle download one year. 17th century French monk who spent all of his life trying to get into the presence of God. And so he said it was hard all the time, but I persevered. And now, I don't know how old he was when I'm reading these snippets of his diary. I feel that I am in the presence of God most of the time. And so I use it devotionally, just reading little pieces of it. And little things have stuck in my head. For example, he says, when I get my eyes off of God, things don't tend to go very well. But all I do is put my eyes back on Jesus and everything lines up again. Now, why is that a rich nugget for me? Coming from a holiness tradition where you beat yourself up for not doing it perfectly and not getting it right and not getting all the rules memorized on time, you are skipping the self-punishment part. All I do is put my eyes back on Jesus and things go much better. You're skipping that part. And you always have a go-to to deal with trouble. Jesus is always available, right? So on Practicing the Presence, or Practicing the Presence, it's got different titles, great book. And for those of you that would really like to dig deeper, anything written by Dallas Willard, the late Dallas Willard, brilliant theologian. But I'll tell you, his books are just jumbled thoughts coming at you, but a nugget will just, bam, hit you right in the face and it sticks there. And that's how I loved his writing. I'm reading his stuff saying, where are you going? Oh, there we are. Or Richard Foster, who writes on disciplines of the Spirit, and he's very encyclopedic. He's like, straight line, right at it. You can kind of look stuff up in his book and you're right there. So those are two authors I would highly recommend if you want to look at the spiritual development. There are lots of contemporary writers who are doing really good stuff. If you really want to dig deep, grab a volume of something called Christian Spiritual Classics and go back and read about the writings of the Desert Fathers and Mothers. This is going way back. This is long before Protestant existed. And you'll find some very, very interesting things. I loved the book, The Spirituality of the Desert Fathers and Mothers. This book portrayed, I'm being distracted. There's a wasp in my room over here. So if you see me dive down, it doesn't mean that we're being attacked by anything universally. It's just that I'm being attacked. So that's going on right now. My stress level just went up a little bit like that. So the Spirituality of Desert Fathers and Mothers, here's and again, just something just hits you. So here's a line from that. A younger man is going to his spiritual director and he says, "Father, I have fallen." And the father says, "Well, get up." Another time he goes back to his spiritual director. Father, I have fallen. He says, get up. Third time he goes back to his spiritual father. Father, I have fallen. He says, get up. Well, Father, how many times do I need to get up? He says, every time, and hope you're standing when Jesus comes. This is a very grace-giving culture that this is depicting. And I think it's lovely. It's holding the standard, but it writes about, we believe that God is working in you. And we don't have to be beaten up on you all the time. We believe God is going to work in your life and bring you along at whatever pace you have. We're going to encourage you. We're going to disciple you, and we're going to love you no matter what, which is a huge grace-giving community that I find very attractive. So, cumulative stress is unavoidable right now. It's going to happen. I've been at it this longer than I thought I would. If you have any closing questions, I've shot out some books. I'll be happy to respond. I'm opening up my email to the world, P. VanValin, my name, P. VanValin at EdenCounseling.com. I'm opening up my Google voice number, 757-967-7372. I'll be happy to post that in any manner of things. I welcome conversation. I'm intentionally giving a lot of time to engage people, to share with people. The message is, I really appreciate all of you that joined us. We've got 27 people on now. I think that's fabulous. And many of you know many, many people to share these concepts with. I'm going to post this. Once it's archived, I'm going to post it on EdenCounseling.com and feel free to share that. I'm always willing to do what God calls me to do. And when it's time to stop, I'll know. If it ceases to be, yes, Mirabella, thank you. She's reminding me to be sure to save the video. Mirabella used to assist me in this stuff, so she's helping me. She's in Romania watching this. So I'm gonna try to save the video. And if I blow it and it's discarded, I'll figure out how to get the message out there again. So here's my intention, and most of you won't have time for this. My intention is to do this every day, at least this week. And my goal was 30 minutes. I went a little bit long, but it really doesn't have a time frame. So, and I could be 5. It could be that we just kind of run out of time. So I'm going to record this, post it on EdenCounseling.com. Feel free to view it, share it, invite people to join us tomorrow. I really appreciate your comments. I see lots of thank yous and likes. I love it. Of course, I love people telling me I'm doing a great job. But I'm also interested in critical communication. If I'm speaking too fast, which I tend to do, if I'm not articulating well enough, if I tend to do, if you just don't like the way I look, I can't do anything about that. So I'm going to close this with prayer. I'll be back on tomorrow. Feel free to communicate any thoughts, questions. Eden Counseling is open for business. If you feel like, I need an extra little help, we're here. And for those of you outside of Virginia, VanValin Assessment and Consulting is open for coaching business. And we'll talk more about that. Transitional life coaching is our thing. So, Lord, bless everybody that's on board right now. Bless their families. Bless their businesses. Help us to shine like light in the darkness. Help us to be salt, seasoning all that is around us. Help us to not succumb to fear, negative discourse, unyielding critical attitudes with each other, with those around us. Help us to make you proud. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Have a great day, folks. Now I'm going to see if I can save this. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.